Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation, highlighting our petroleum engineering programs with Professor Iraj Ershaghi. So thank you so much, Dr. Ershaghi, for joining us today to talk about our master's and graduate certificate programs in petroleum engineering. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right, so just a couple quick notes. So for those of you that are joining us during the live session, we will send a follow-up email within 1 to 2 business days, and that will contain a copy of the slides. And then throughout the session, we do encourage those that are joining us live to ask any questions using the Q&A panel, and we'll respond to those questions during this live session. For those of you that are joining us after as watching it as a recording, please note that today's session is as of today, which is April 17th, 2023. So just always keep in mind that the content, you'll want to make sure to always reference our prospective graduate engineering and websites, and those respective links will be available throughout the presentation. So for today's program, I just wanted to start out by giving an overview of our USC Viterbi School of Engineering, and then we will jump right into finding out about the master's and graduate certificate programs in petroleum engineering that Dr. Ershaghi will be going through. We'll go through some frequently asked questions we receive. We'll talk about Dennett Viterbi and our enrollment options, so both online and on-campus delivery method options. And then at the end of the session, there will be some time to ask any questions from Professor Ershaghi. So in terms of the University of Southern California, for those of you that haven't joined us for a past session, we are the oldest private university in the Western United States. We were founded way back in 1880. Currently, we have over 49,000 students, getting closer to that 50,000 point, and we have over 28,000 graduate students. We have a very diverse student population, so we have students from all over the nation, throughout the world, representing many different countries and all different walks of life. Our faculty members, we have over 4,700 full-time faculty members, and that number actually doesn't include many of the adjunct faculty that come from a variety of different industries and really bring their expertise to the classroom. And then we're located in Los Angeles. So for those of you that are not familiar with the Los Angeles or even Southern California area, we're about a 10 to 15-minute drive from downtown Los Angeles. So we really are in the middle of all the action. There's so many great opportunities surrounding us, whether it's jobs, internships, or just various learning opportunities. But, of course, we have many partnerships, and we're very well known throughout the world. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit as well. But in terms of the Viterbi School of Engineering, so USC has many academic schools. The Viterbi School of Engineering is one of the largest and oldest academic schools within the university. We are comprised of 8 academic departments. One of our great academic departments is our includes our petroleum engineering master's degree program. So it's a part of the larger Mark family department of chemical engineering, petroleum engineering, and material science programs as well. And Dr. Ershaghi can talk a little bit more about our petroleum engineering program specifically in a bit. And we have 189 tenure track faculty members. We have 35 National Academy of Engineering members and over 90 National Science Foundation Career National and Presidential Young Investigator awardees. We have over 6,300 graduate students, which, as you can see there, is over double that of our undergraduate student population. So that includes our master's students, both online and on campus, as well as our graduate certificate students and PhD students, many of which are, working alongside faculty members in over 35 different research centers with lots of different exciting research that goes on at any given point. And if you're interested in research, feel free to ask Dr. Ershaghi about some exciting research, and I'm sure he'll touch upon that during the presentation as well. So, in terms of the rankings, we do get asked from time to time, were you ranked? Overall, have been consistently recognized as the best graduate engineering school as a whole. But specifically, there's rankings actually for best petroleum engineering programs, and USC Viterbi is actually been ranked number 8, currently, for petroleum engineering. So, that's very exciting. Speaks to the great caliber of the program, the faculty members, and just what our students get out of the program. And again, we'll have an opportunity to discuss that with Professor Ershaghi as well. And so I just wanted to go ahead and move forward with introducing you to Professor Iraj Ershaghi. He is the Omar B. Milligan Professor and Director of our Petroleum Engineering Program in the Mork Family Department of Chemical Engineering and Materials Science. He's also the Director of the Ershaghi Center for Energy Transition, or ECT, which is a very exciting new center, and he can talk more about that as well. He's also the Executive Director of the Chevron USC Center for Interactive Smart Oilfield Technologies, or CSOFT. And he's also one of our National Academy of Engineering members, which is one of the greatest achievements you can possibly receive as an engineer. And so, Professor Ershaghi, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'll let you go ahead and take it away. And some frequently asked questions, I guess. First of all, so what petroleum engineering graduate programs are offered by USC? And could you explain the differences between the specializations offered? All right.
Thank you, Erin. So let me tell you at the beginning that petroleum engineering is a part of the Mork Family Department. And this is a very important department in the School of Engineering at USC because we focus on energy and on materials and processing. And if you look around, you can see that for whatever the discipline and profession you go into, energy is a very important part, and you need materials, and you need ways to process materials and process different things. And so we are very proud that we are part of that department. The field of petroleum engineering is actually changing rapidly. It is more going toward the energy engineering. However, we know that a great source for containment of carbon dioxide and also a great source of energy still is the Mother Earth. So there's a lot we can actually depend on that. So if we don't want to release our carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, we have to actually store it underground. The expertise that you learn in petroleum engineering is really related to subsurface engineering. What can we do with the subsurface in order to store energy, in order to store carbon dioxide, and be able to clean our environment? Now, storing energy is one of the areas of research that we are doing. As you know, one of the traditional ways of storing energy has been the use of batteries. And of course, with the lithium shortages that we have in this country, that may not be a viable option in the years to come, especially if all the cars are going to go on become electric vehicles, and you get to the point that you're going to have shortages of lithium as a material. And plus the fact that batteries, they may not be able to last more than 6, 7, 8, 10 hours. So we need, in a long range, if you want to use more and more renewables, we need to have dependable long range sources of energy storage. So we are actually working in this area, and we are showing that how we can use the subsurface aquifers and actually store compressed air to be able to use that compressed air as a source of energy in the durations that could be several days or several months for that matter, and depending on the size of the storage. So that's a very exciting area we're working. The other area we're working is the monitoring. So it is known that in many parts of the California and in many parts of the nation, occasionally you get the emission of greenhouse gases. And so our group is actually working on the development of sensor and sensor technology and a cloud-based system to transmit information from various sensors. So you have an early alert system recognizing that, where might be the emission, and you can take corrective action. This is going to be applying to many manufacturing processes and many refineries and many oil and gas operations where there could be a potential for emission. Our focus in the past and still is on digital transformation. as Erin mentioned, we have a center that's been sponsored by Chevron since 2003. And that center is really focusing mostly on digital transformation. How can we use the artificial intelligence? How can we use the machine learning? How can we use different digital technologies? How can we use blockchain to, improve the efficiency of operations, no matter what you're doing, and be able to actually have a better control of what's going on in our field, in our domain of expertise. Now, in the petroleum engineering, we realize that the opportunities are coming because more and more companies, oil and gas companies, are becoming energy companies that are investing tons of money in the areas of alternative resources. And we are with them. We are actually providing both the storage capabilities and containment capabilities. We are doing some research on the conversion of carbon dioxide to useful products. One of them is, of course, is alcohol as a source of energy. And the other one is actually is a very exciting technique is that if we succeed in this area, we are actually developing techniques that will convert the CO2 to a solid that could be removed from current gasoline-powered automobiles, and of course that will revolutionize the field that we're field of transportation. So in the petroleum engineering, we have a regular master's in petroleum engineering, and we have one that's focused on geoscience. It depends how you select electives, and the electives are mostly to do with the unconventional resources. We have also an option in the area of digital oilfield technology. We also offer a program that you can get a master's degree in petroleum engineering and a master's degree in engineering management. Now, for those people who already have a master's degree, we offer a certificate program in digital oilfield and conventional resources. In recent years, we have actually started offering elective courses related to the low carbon engineering, and this is really finding a lot of interest among the graduates because of the need that the companies have for getting people with that kind of expertise. You can go to the next slide, Erin, please. So the regular courses that we require, which we call the core courses, include the courses that are listed here: 507, 508, 517, 531, 555, and 582. These are the core courses. Everybody will take them. Everybody will take these expertise because they need to have a better understanding of the subsurface environment. How do you drill a well? Whether you're drilling the well for CO2 storage, or whether you're drilling for coal bed reservoirs, or whether you're drilling for oil and gas production, there are new technologies in terms of cementing materials, in terms of drilling efficiency. You need to be familiar with that. And then how do you enhance the recovery by injection of CO2? How do you monitor the wells, and testing of wells on aquifer course will cover that. Monitoring is very important because when you store something on the ground, you have to be able to monitor the subsurface and see what's happening. And also the modeling of this whole process is what's taught in 508, and the basics of engineering subsurface that really was covered in 508. And our elective courses, again, has to do with the particular program you're selecting, and we have a number of elective courses that you can choose from. Next slide, please. And now you can see actually the elective courses that are given in the smart oilfield technology or in the geoscience program. In the smart oilfield technology courses you could take, there are actually about more than 6 or 7 courses you can take, but you need to take 4 of them. The ones that are very popular are, one is in physical and cyber security. There's one on smart completion. There's one on advanced oilfield visualization. There's one also on digital or technology version 2.0. So, and in the area of geosciences, again, you can have courses related to reservoir characterization. You can take courses in essentially phase behavior of trying to store carbon dioxide or recover more resources from the unconventional resource reservoirs. You can take also courses related to fractioning or courses related to geostatistics, depending on your interest areas. Next slide, please. So again, you have the detail on geoscience program that you can see the number of electives you can take in different areas. And again, on the first day before you actually start your classes, you meet with myself or our other advisors, and we develop your entire program about what are the core courses and what are the electives. And if you have a master's or if you have an undergraduate degree in petroleum engineering, you can finish the degree in a year and a half. If you have it in non-petroleum, you have to take some deficiency courses, and it takes 2 years to do it. But one of the unique aspects of our program is that almost all of the smart master's students, the one who have a GPA of 3.5 or higher, are actually employed hourly to work on a number of projects. We have so many projects going that it doesn't make it to the level of PhD, but there are immediate thing that problem has to be solved. And we have a number of our master's students actually working on these projects. And they ended up with a publication that would be beneficial for the resume. At the same time, we want to make sure they're familiar with the ongoing issues and ongoing problems that they have to face when they get employment with the companies. Most of the students, of course, they have a summer employment in terms of an internship, but during the year, in addition to the courses, if they want, they can actually get involved in this project. Next. Again, in the engineering management is really between our multifamily department and the Department of Industry and System Engineering. And so what you do, you take all the requirements that you have for a master's degree. And once you have a master's in one field, you can take 18 units in another field. In this case, you take 18 units in industrial engineering. And again, we sit down and work with you on your schedule. We target the course in such a way to be able to finish it within the time frame that I indicated. Next. So on a digital orphic technology, the focus has been the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data mining, and these are the courses that normally we are offering that usually in a matter of 2 years that you can actually finish this system. Now, some of the students show interest to take courses in the computer science, and we allow that too. So at least one of the 4 courses could be in the computer science department if they need to learn a particular language. Next. And if you have a master's degree and then you don't want to go for another master's degree, you can actually go for our certificate program. So these are core courses you take, whether it's in a smart offshore technology or a geosciences program. This slide actually shows the required courses in terms of the certificate we have for unconventional resources. But then you have a similar slide coming up later on that would be courses you take in terms of a certificate for the smart office technology. Next. So as been indicated by many outfits that have studied the question of energy transition for the next 30, 40, 50 years, the largest level of investment would be made in energy technologies. And if you look at the sites of the McKinsey or the sites of IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Resources Engineering, you can see the forecast is something like in order of 130 trillion with the T investment. And that kind of investment means lots of activities among the companies, among the startups, among the small companies to get involved in different aspects of it. And different aspects really has to do with manufacturing or innovation manufacturing of renewable ways of being able to provide the new energy, how we can clean up the operation so you can you may be dependent on oil and gas for years to come. So how can you produce them in a cleaner way? And also generally removing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and reinjecting it on the ground to make sure that we are reducing the CO2 content. So by getting involved in the field of energy, you can never go wrong because the society, the modern society that we have is really highly dependent on availability of reasonably costed. Because if the cost goes too high, the society can afford it. So, in order to bring the cost to a reasonable level, you can see that there will be always demand for people who are actually specializing in anything related to energy.
Perfect.
Next.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Shaghi, for all that great insight. Another question we have that I can touch upon is, can I pursue a petroleum engineering graduate program online? So the answer is yes, you can do so for our masters, all of these masters in petroleum engineering and specializations, as well as our two graduate certificate offerings in petroleum engineering. So you are able to complete any of these programs 100% online. You don't have to step foot on campus. But I'll talk a little bit more about how our online delivery method works shortly. But for those of you that might be interested in being an on-campus student, of course, you can be an on-campus student as well. So our on-campus students, typically speaking, but not always, they generally tend to be full-time students taking at least 2 classes per semester, but sometimes, taking up to 4 classes at a time, just depending on their schedules. And typically, as Dr. Shaghi mentioned, it can take about 1.5 to 2 years, just depending too on your undergraduate background, and any other courses that you may have taken as well. And then for online Dena Viterbi students, because the large majority of our online students are working professionals, though it's not required to be working in order to be an online student, they tend to take 1 or 2 courses per semester. So, and usually on average, our online students are graduating about 2.5 to 3 years. But essentially, you have 5 years to complete your degree program, and you can even petition for additional 2 years. So it's really it depends on how many courses you take per semester and whether or not you take courses during the summer, which is considered optional for most students. All right. So in terms of how Dena Viterbi works, so there's a lot of different online methods out there, especially since the pandemic, but we do want to distinguish that USC Viterbi has its own proprietary web-based delivery system, which we call Dena Viterbi, and there's an entire network control team, an entire tech support team, homework exams coordinator, etc., that really support all of our online students so that they can pursue their program from essentially any location in the world as long as they have the technical requirements and access. But essentially, the way that it works is our online students are actually in the same exact courses and program as on-campus students. So the way that they can watch it is one of three or a combination of 3 different ways. So you can watch the lectures live as they're happening on USC's campus. The thing that's nice about that is being able to call in during the live lectures, chat your questions, so you can get your answers on the spot, right in person, just as if you were in the classroom. But if from time to time if you ever have like a work or personal conflict with the live lecture times, it is possible to also watch the lectures via the course recordings archive. So after the live session would be recorded for any courses that have Dena Viterbi access. It then goes into the course recordings archive, and then you would be able to stream those lectures from the time it's available into the end of the semester when it's no longer available. So, but you can watch it as many times as you need to. It's a great studying tool as well. And then in addition, although it is not required to step foot on USC's campus at any point in the duration of your program, you do have the option to come to campus. You can come to campus, you can sit in on lectures, meet your faculty members and fellow students, enjoy all of the perks of being a USC student just as any other on-campus student would. So you will always have the same benefits of being a USC student as any other student. Online students are treated no different with any regard. And so in terms of, I'm going to talk about some of these things on the next slide, but we do get a lot of questions about how exams would work. So exams, if they are required that you do have to have a proctor, depends on the individual course and instructor, but essentially you would need to take your exams at either a proctor test center that's located around wherever you're working or your home. Sometimes programs that can include, community college, a local library, a corporate professional site. So if there's somebody, if you're working full time or working and you have somebody in maybe HR or a supervisor that's willing to proctor examinations, that's possible. And then if you're in the Los Angeles, Orange, or Ventura counties, you would take your exams on USC's campus. And we do actually have a dedicated Jenna Viterbi exam proctor coordinator. She's fantastic and really helps support our students in coordinating any exams that do need to be taken place in person when required. So just a side-by-side comparison of a Jenna Viterbi student versus an on-campus student. So in terms of admission and the application process, it's exactly the same. There's no difference in terms of the admission requirements or the application materials. The weekly course lectures, the exams, homework assignments are exactly the same. There's no difference there. Just depends on where you're taking your exams. And then in terms of the course recordings, so Jenna Viterbi students have access to those course recordings when they're enrolled in a Jenna Viterbi section. On-campus students can also potentially have access to those course recordings too, but it's dependent on whether or not there are Jenna Viterbi students in the classroom and then access is needed. So if you really need those course recordings and want to ensure that you always have access to those course recordings, you may want to consider pursuing your program as a Jenna Viterbi student. And then in terms of courses per semester, I talked about that. Degree completion requirements are exactly the same. So 27 to 37 units with a 3.0 GPA or above. And there's absolutely no distinction on your diploma, whether you're an online or an on-campus student. You would earn the same exact diploma, same exact degree. Does not matter whatsoever in terms of your online or on-campus delivery. So another is, what are the application requirements and tuition and fees? So application criteria for our graduate programs include the following, and specifically for the master's degree programs in petroleum engineering, this is the general application criteria. Always making sure though that you are referencing, as I mentioned earlier, the specific program, the website and the specific program pages that you're interested in, because that's always going to have the most up-to-date information, especially if you're watching this as a recording. So always make sure that you have the latest information. But generally speaking, an undergraduate degree in petroleum engineering or other engineering, math, arts, science with assigned deficiencies that Professor Ershaghi mentioned from a regionally accredited college or university is required. And then in terms of the GPA, so a cumulative undergraduate GPA of a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale or above is recommended, although it's not required. If you have less than a 3.0, we encourage you to strengthen your application as much as possible, but you're still welcome to apply for admission. The GRE exam is not required for admission to any of our 2023 Viterbi admission applications. So if you want to absolutely be ensured that you don't have to take the GRE, we do encourage you to apply for fall 2023 if possible, and I'll go over the deadlines coming up as well. A CV or resume is also required, as well as a personal statement. And then 3 letters of recommendation are required, but again, always make sure that you're taking a look at the individual program pages. And then for those of you that are international applicants, the TOEFL or IELTS exam is traditionally is required as well, unless you went to an undergraduate institution where the only language of instruction is in English, or you come from a country where English is the only language, or is the official language of that country, from an Anglophone country. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to share my contact information at the end, but happy to assist you with the application process once you're ready to get started. So in terms of application deadlines, so for fall 2023, which starts in August, we have officially extended the application deadline for those applicants who are interested in pursuing their entire degree program as an online Jenna Viterbi student. So this extension unfortunately is not applicable to those that need or require an F1 student visa or an I-20. Reason being is that we we do need a good amount of processing time for both for an F1 student visa. So we want to make sure that, those that require an F1 student visa have enough time. If you didn't make if the fall 2023 is too soon for you, or if you require an F1 student visa, or you're planning to pursue your program as an on-campus student, spring 2024 is going to be the next opportunity. The deadline to submit all required materials is going to be September 15th of this year. And you do also, if you want to be considered as for on-campus, for scholarships for on-campus students, you do need to also apply by that September 15th deadline. Now, for Denim Viterbi online students, we do have separate Denim Viterbi scholarships, or scholarships that are applicable to Denim Viterbi students, which are separate from the admission application. And then also, as a note there, there's an asterisk there, because if you ever get close to an application deadline, planning to pursue your program as a Denim Viterbi student and need additional time, we encourage you to reach out to denimviterbi.usc.edu. That goes to myself as well as my colleague Marilyn Lau, and we more often than not can work with you to offer an application extension on a case-by-case basis. But we just want to make sure that you're receiving an admission decision as early as possible, so that you don't are not scrambling right before the start of the term. Okay, so some additional information. So I'm going to talk about, we'll talk about more about the scholarship offerings. But in addition, just a couple of things, also want to talk about in terms of limited status. So in addition to being able to apply for formal admission and going through the full process of applying, we also have what's called limited status enrollment. So limited status is a way to get a jump start on taking courses as early as this coming summer term, which would start as early as May. But essentially, you do need to have an undergraduate degree in engineering, math, or hard science from a regionally accredited institution, and you do have to have a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale, and the necessary background to take particular courses. But it's limited in the sense that there's a maximum of 12 units you can take, and limited status does not guarantee that you be formally admitted. So while it's a great way to get a jump start in taking courses, or even to just take individual courses and not pursue a full master's degree, just note that if you want to actually pursue a full master's degree or graduate certificate program, you do have to formally apply for formal admission for either a graduate certificate or a master's degree program in order to actually have that degree conferred. But in terms of getting started as a limited status student, it's a pretty quick and easy process. You would just complete what's called a Denim Viterbi profile. Typically takes around 15 or 20 minutes to complete. And then, you should receive a response as to whether or not you are approved to start enrolling as early as this summer, with typically 3 to 5 business days. Sometimes a little bit longer if undergraduate transcripts are required, but more often than not, they're not required at all. For limited status. So in terms of other options, so for those of you that are working professionals and want to defer your upfront payment of tuition until after the semester's over, we do have what's called the Employer Reimbursement Deferment Program. So you can actually defer your upfront payment of up to 90% of your tuition after the semester's over, but you do need to, your employer does have to reimburse you for tuition at the end of each term, and your student account needs to be current, and then you'd be responsible to submit the required items listed there each semester that you would like to defer your upfront payments. And there's more details on that link provided there. So another question, do you offer any scholarships or funding? So the answer is yes, we do. So as I mentioned, we do have a separate Denim Viterbi scholarship. These are merit-based scholarships that are awarded to outstanding students that are pursuing a master's degree program fully online via Denim Viterbi. So they range from 1 to 4 units of tuition. There's a number of awards that we do offer, and it's for those that only receive partial or no tuition reimbursement funds from their employers. The funding is awarded awarded during the academic year. It only applies towards tuition, but you can reapply each academic year for future scholarship consideration, and it's possible to receive it more than once. As a newly admitted student, though, you do need to have a cumulative undergraduate degree with a minimum GPA of at least a 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. So if you're either a newly admitted student, or even as long as you have an application on file and you receive a decision, before the start of the term, or but by the time applications are reviewed for the scholarship, then you can be eligible. And then the fall 2023 scholarship deadline is going to be Monday, June 23rd. And again, keep in mind that this scholarship application is separate. So, it's separate from the admission application. So you'll want to go to that link provided there for more details on all the specific requirements and eligibility, as well as the application to submit by June 26th. And then go ahead, Dr. Ershaghi, and talk a little bit about the ECT fellowships.
So about a year ago, actually, we established a new center at the School of Engineering at USC. It's called the Energy Transition Center. And we have a number of research faculty actually doing different interesting things in that center. But we have also established, for the benefit of the people who are pursuing master's degree and do a project with us related to energy transition, we are offering, starting this fall, 2 master's level fellowship at the level of $20,000 each. This would be for people who are pursuing a master's degree in chemical engineering or petroleum engineering. And also they're doing a project with us and related to energy transition. So actually, we already have 2 applicants for the last year, and we are looking forward to having 2 more applicants actually that will join this effort.
Great. Thanks so much for that. All right, so for those of you that are interested in getting started, hopefully you are looking to get started as early as possible. We encourage you, if you are planning to pursue your program as an on-campus student, to visit USC's campus. It's a beautiful campus. But if you're not able to, whether you're currently far away or you're planning to pursue your program as an online student, we do have a virtual tour that you can visit as well. And then, of course, we encourage you to start your application for formal admission for the spring 2024 term, which is the next term, as I mentioned, for on-campus applicants. And then for those of you that are interested in pursuing your program as an online Denver student, again, we encourage you to start your application for formal admission, and you can apply for the fall 2023 term with the application deadline extension, as long as you, again, don't need a visa sponsorship. And then we also encourage you, though, if you'd like to get started as early as this coming May, you can get started potentially as a limited status student for summer 2023, but you will need to complete your Denver profile and receive approval in order to do that. And we encourage you to do that as early as possible, since the summer is just around the corner. All right, so now is your opportunity to ask any questions from Professor Ershaghi. So feel free to use the Q&A panel and we will get to your questions. But I do have some questions that I have also received beforehand, so I just want to kind of go through those with you. So Professor Ershaghi, we have the question of, is it possible to do directed research as either a master's student or a graduate certificate student?
Yeah, we actually encourage that because these days, what we cover in the courses is one thing, but actually to get focused on problems that the industry is facing is something that is of tremendous interest to the student. So many of our master's students are actually doing directed research with different faculty members.
Great, that's great to hear. And does that, just to kind of follow up on that, does that include both? Can online students do that too, or is it only for on-campus students?
No, actually, I myself had an online student from Kuwait who actually did the paper, presented. Paper has been accepted. So yes, we can work with online student. And usually we conduct Zoom sessions individually with the students to be able to guide them throughout the process.
Great. And another question we get a lot is, is it required to do a master's thesis? And if so, how does that work?
A master thesis is an option. Um, we have some students, mostly from international countries, that they would need to do a thesis, and if that they make that selection, we assign them a topic, and then they work on it, and once they're done, they have to actually submit a thesis. It's not like a PhD thesis. Is the requirements are not as stringent, but they need to submit a thesis related to the project you can work on. But most of the domestic students and other students come from other countries actually go for a directed research, which is an option that results in presenting or publishing a technical paper, and especially if for job purposes, it really makes it's much more appealing to the companies these days.
Gotcha. Great to know. And then another is, we have sometimes people that are debating between like a master's and a PhD program in petroleum engineering. So I guess, is it possible to go from like a master's degree, be a master's student, finish that, and then go on to a PhD program? Or do you typically recommend just going straight into a PhD program?
I think in our program, at least 70% of the people who go for a PhD are the people you recognize they have a talent for research. When they're doing something in the master's program, we encourage them and we incentivize them to stay for a PhD. Yeah, we do have some people come from other areas, which is fine too. But I think the decision is up to the individual. Number one, of course, from our standpoint, the person has to be research oriented and has kind of a brilliant mind that they can solve problem. But some of the students who make decision to go in that direction, they have ambitious goals that will land them a job in an academic or research environment. And so, to a large extent, has to do with the interests of the individual. But we still have to admit them. And now, of course, once you get to the PhD program, if you are accepted, Erin may tell you that actually the total cost of the education for 4 years is covered by university, and this includes the tuition and includes the stipend monthly. So not for that reason, but for the reason that the people want to pursue the highest academic degree in their field. We do get a lot of application actually in this area. And like this year, we had about close to 100 applicants. And of course, we selected 17 to 18 out of them to get into the program. So in our department, we are very careful about people being able to do the research in a matter of 4 years, and making that selection at the beginning based on the applications and the letter of recommendations and maybe prior publications is a very tough decision. But we don't want anybody to fail. We want to make sure that people we get they can actually succeed in their careers.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that distinction. That's really helpful. So again, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to use the Q&A panel. But if you don't have any questions today, that's okay. You still have an opportunity after the session. So for those of you that are planning to pursue your program as on-campus students, you can email viterbi.gradadmission@usc.edu. And then for those that are planning to pursue the program as Denovich Online students, denviterbi.usc.edu is the email address, again, that goes to myself, Erin Tanaka, as well as my colleague, Marilyn Lau. And we make every effort to respond within, as soon as possible, within 24 hours on normal business days. And then if you have any questions and want to chat over the phone, maybe about, the application process, we're happy to support you. You can just ask for Marilyn or me, and we're happy to chat with you about your questions, or you can also email us and we can share our availability calendars. But thank you so much, Dr. Ershaghi, for all your insight today. Of course, always love to hear from you. And for those of you that join us during the live session, thank you so much. And to everyone out there, take care. And as we see at USC, fight on, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.